a podcast where we get comfortable with the uncomfortable and talk about what it is to be a woman in the arts today. So get the bra off, get the knickers out, and get ready to go commando. I'm Rhiannon Bird-Lewis.
And I'm Claire Bigley.
And today we're talking about transferable skills.
What does that mean? Don't worry, listeners, because we have the amazing Ngunan Adamu with us today to break it all down for you.
We've just had the most amazing conversation with Ngunan. It was just incredible.
However, what you're going to hear is a condensed version of that recording because, you know...
We didn't hit record.
But this just goes to show that when you go commando, make sure you do a test first.
Yes.
So here you go. Here's your condensed, incredible chat with Ngunan Adamu.
Hello, Ngunan. Just to start us off, could you give us just a little brief overview of what you do?
So yes, I've got many hats on, as most people will know. So I'm a presenter producer for BBC Radio Merseyside. I'm also an international multimedia trainer. So I get to travel all over Africa and Asia, training journalists for the World Service Bureau. And I'm a social entrepreneur as well. So I have Ngunan Academy, which is a 12-week course for women who are looking for the next step up. So you could be unemployed or on 0-hour contracts or anything really, but you just need that next step up. So that literally is in a nutshell what I do. But my show on Radio Merseyside, the African Caribbean show, so I'm all about the community and and just looking after people through media.
Oh, that's brilliant. And we, as our wicked women, we have been really inspired by you, which is why, it's a joy to have you with us on our podcast. And one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you today was this idea, like you've just described yourself, as many, many different hats. And one of the things we've talked about is this notion of, you need to have a particular title or a master of one thing. And we want to know your take on that and whether that's something that you think still exists in the arts today.
The funny thing is, I feel that COVID and lockdown has actually showed us that we shouldn't be just focused on one thing. So when I was growing up, and even when I started in the industry, it was always focused on one thing. And in terms of the way my mind works, that was never going to happen. So then it got to a point where I didn't really tell anyone all the other things that I wanted to do, because then that came across as I wasn't serious, which is quite a harsh thing, but that's how the industry is. The creative industry is like, oh, if you don't do this and you're not set in that way and you're trying to do other things, oh, that means you're not focused. So I just started plodding along and doing my own thing. And I would say all of that is actually what allowed me to survive during COVID. So for a lot of people don't know that I am a qualified teacher. I went back to university to do a PGC in adult education. And then at the same time, I started Ngunan Academy as well. And I was still working at the BBC.
Wow.
So during lockdown, I actually survived from my qualification from doing online courses. And if it wasn't for starting Ngunan Academy, I wouldn't have been able to network with different people and understand different people. And that actually gave me connection internationally as well. So when I was trying to build Ngunan, I was meeting different people who said, oh, why didn't you speak to this person in Canada or speak to this person in the Philippines? And it was through those conversations that actually people would just get me to do podcast courses. And like I said, I was still presenting on air as well. So I think that notion of having one hat is not a good survival structure. I think definitely if you can handle having multiple hats, I would say go for it. But that means, structuring your time right, actually having a purpose and an aim and looking at yourself as a business and being able to time manage as well. So I would say for anyone who is strong enough, not even strong enough, that has the right connections and support system, have as many hats as you can manage.
In terms of how that's evolved, did you start off with how you wanted to end up in terms of your value-based goals, or is it more you started off with a job and it's just built up from there?
It's a weird one really, because I actually didn't understand the industry until I got into the industry. So went to university, did my degree in straightforward journalism, and actually it's when I got into the industry that I realized how big it was, because in university they don't show you everything and it's based on their experiences as well. So lots of our lecturers actually were retired journalists, and I think that's what makes my experience different in terms of teaching, because I'm actually I'm I'm a working journalist. I work in the industry still. So we just knew what they knew from when they retired. I'd definitely say it was having a bigger picture. So I've always been a bigger picture type of person. So I knew I wanted to work with people. I knew I wanted to work with communities. I've always had this energy for youth, for women, for music, for the creative industry. So I didn't know what it was that I wanted to do, but I knew it was big, which is crazy. You know, I always thought big. Even when I used to have ideas in the newsroom, it was always, let's take it down a few levels. So yes, I was always a big thinker, but actually being in the industry really opened up my eyes to what was available, you know, that most people didn't even have access to.
That's quite a nice way of putting it, actually, being a bigger thinker, because I suppose thinking about, the female as well, did you ever feel that as a woman, as a girl growing up, that those ambitions and those plans wouldn't be achievable?
I'm one of the lucky ones because I've got a family that is very strong in their belief. So growing up, I was always told I was amazing. I'm the best. There's no one else like me. Ngunan actually means God's gift. This is who you are. You're a gift to the world. So I had this big head. I still do, that I'm here for a purpose. That's my thing. I always say that I'm a good luck charm and I'm here to support other people. So growing up within the family system, that was fine. But actually, in the education system and then going into the place of work, it wasn't fine. Being a Black woman and a young Black girl having this confidence, there was always this thing of, oh, Ngunan thinks she can, but she can't. But then the funny thing about it was when they needed me to do things, or they needed someone in the school that could make it happen, I was the one that got called up, whether that was sports, whether it was the school debating team, it was me. But actually, just every day, you are not all that. You think you are, but you're not, and sometimes it's not even the words, it's the actions. You would see other girls acting foolish or misbehaving, and they wouldn't get as much talking down to. But like a lot of us, especially Black girls, if we said anything, we were sent out of class. But I was very vocal. I remember one time, I actually got the girls to protest.
Wow.
It's only like as I got older, that told me mum. But we were just like, we're just going to protest about the behavior and how they treat us. But so it was a weird one. But like I said, if it wasn't for my parents and my grandparents, I don't think I'd be where I am now, because they gave me so much confidence to say, you're not the problem, they're the problem. Like, I'm on the right path. And actually starting iWoman has shown me that. It's shown me that, Ngunan, you are clever. You do have things to say. For many years, there was this kind of, oh no, you're not that good. You think you are, but you're not. Even in the industry, which is a shame. But I think these are honest conversations that we have to have. So when people are listening, they fully understand what their actions and what their words mean. Because there's young women like me who are going into the industry and having these older people tell them that they shouldn't be doing certain things or they shouldn't have big ideas. So I'm always quite vocal about my experiences. But yeah, like I said, I was very fortunate enough to have a family that always told me I was God's gift.
Is that kind of what you meant when you said, like, the strength that you need to be able to take on lots of roles? Is it mostly to do with confidence and believing in yourself?
Oh, most definitely. I've come from a family that is not afraid of challenges or mistakes. And that's another thing that a lot of communities are afraid to show their children. It's okay to fail. It's okay to say, you know what, that's not working right for you. If there's a child or a young person, even as an adult, you go, that doesn't feel right. All right, then what do I do? Do you know what I mean? How do I see the bigger picture? And that's why I'm always really keen for people to fully understand the power of knowledge and the power of research, because sometimes our decision is based on a lack of research and a lack of knowledge. But actually, when you open up your mind and you've got the right people telling you things or open up your experiences, then you make the right decision. And many people sometimes don't know the answer, but they just know that something doesn't feel right. So it's being able to get the confidence to really articulate what it is that you're feeling and why you feel a certain way. That comes definitely from confidence and knowledge. But that doesn't take away that I do sometimes have imposter syndrome. I do. I am confident, but there's times when I've been in the room and I think, are they sure I'm the right person? Look at all these amazing people. Oh goodness, is this the best place for me? So I still do get imposter syndrome.
I'm surprised to hear that. Yeah. maybe that just shows the human side, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we all, no matter how experienced or confident, I think there's that other element of us, isn't there? What's really great to hear is always find more, learn more, keep yourself, like you said, you went back and retrained. You know, I think there's a lot of women who will say, oh, you know, I did have a career, then I decided to have children and things had changed, the sector had moved on. But it's about being able, I suppose, to transfer those skills, isn't it? And to believe you've got something else. We've all got something else to give.
And that's the thing. I think if I wouldn't have had my little one, I wouldn't be where I am now, because actually when I had him, that's when I realized I needed to give more. I needed to create a world that was suitable for him. So it was looking at legacy, you know, kind of be my own boss, because at the time I was working like stupid hours, you know, 13, 14 hours. So I wasn't really spending time with him. And I thought, this is not the life that I want. Why have a child when you can't spend time with them? It was a hard decision to go part-time because, you know, through university, I'm going to work at the BBC. I'm going to work at the BBC. I got there and I enjoyed it as a single person. But then when I had this little one, I was just like, no, he deserves to see his mum. I deserve to spend time with him. But also I don't want anyone controlling my finances. It got to a point where I'd been at the BBC for 10 years. I'd been through 3 lots of job cuts and seen how it affected women especially. And some of them were stuck and didn't know what else to do. And I thought, I need to sort it out before they push me out. You know, it is one of those where as women, we always have to learn. We have to develop ourselves. We have to look at what's happening globally. I never stopped learning. I never stopped reading. I never stopped listening to stuff. I'm constantly thinking outside the box. And Liverpool allows me to do that. It's an amazing city, but it's quiet enough for me to think. Liverpool for me is where I'm able to achieve the things I need to achieve from my base, but still go out internationally.
That's interesting.
Do you think the importance of thinking and listening to yourself has developed over time? And is that key to your ability to have so many roles?
You know, the funny thing is, my mum used to always say, oh, Ngunan, you're like a witch, in a positive way, because we always say there's no such thing as bad witches. It's just people that use magic for bad. That's what they say. I've always been in tune with my feelings and connecting with people. So when I was in primary school, and I still have that gift now, I used to be able to predict if a teacher was pregnant before they knew they were pregnant. And it was crazy because I was like 5 or 6 and I remember saying to a teacher, Miss, are you pregnant? And she was quite offended. And a couple of weeks later, she came over to me, and I remember this. She came in and she whispered and she said, you know, you asked me if I was pregnant. She went, I am. And she was like, how did you know? And I said, I don't know. I just had a feeling, you know. So I've always been connected. And even now, like if I get pregnancy symptoms, it's always someone close to me. So I'll message people and go, are you pregnant? Or is your sister pregnant? And a friend of mine, and this is funny because a friend of mine just had a baby and they've been trying for 15 years. We went out for lunch and I said to him, God, I keep on feeling broody. Like it's really bad. I'm not broody, but I keep on feeling these pregnancy symptoms and broodiness. And it was like someone close to me's got to be pregnant. They only had the baby last week. And I said, why didn't you tell me? And he said, no, the funny thing is, he said, when we went out for lunch, he said, my wife was 2 weeks pregnant, but I couldn't say nothing because I didn't want to jinx it. And I said, it's a gift. So, so I think growing up, I've always been really in tune with the universe and spirituality, but I just didn't know what that was. It's only as I got older, I realized what it was. If something doesn't feel right, I don't go for it. But actually the 3 times, and it's only been 3 times where I've gone for it because I thought, oh, I need the money. And actually it wasn't worth the hassle because it cost me more than time than anything else. So yes, I've always been in tune and listened to myself. Even when I went to university the second time, literally it was this voice in my head. I was so frustrated and I didn't want to be there. I was in Media City and I was sat at my desk and I just thought, I can't do this anymore. What am I going to do? And this voice in my head said, go back to university. I was like, university, and do what? And it said, teaching. So I was like, teaching. And I said, where? And it said, Edge Hill University. It was so specific. So I Googled and I went on the Edge Hill University website and had this course and the deadline wasn't for another month. So I applied, but it said you had to have a 2-2 or 2-1, 2-2 and above qualification. And I left university with a 3rd class degree. So I still applied, got my references together, applied, and obviously within 2 weeks, he emailed back and said, we can't accept you on this course because you've got a 3rd class degree. So then I then sent them an A4 page explaining why I had 3rd class degree. And I said, look, you know, I lost my dad in my 2nd year, had to go back to Nigeria. So I'd been away for 10 months, which is literally my whole school 2nd term. And I just wanted to pass and go back to Nigeria. I said, well, look what I've achieved with my 3rd class degree. So I did all these things. emailed it back and they said, all right, then come from the interview and we'll take it from there. And that's how I got into my course. I went for the interview, killed it. Killed it, and then got on the course, so I've always, when something says fight for it, I'll fight for it, but if something says it wasn't meant to be, I'll leave it alone. So there's an amazing quote, and it says, man's rejection is God's protection. So now if I don't get that interview or something, anything like that, I'm just like, it wasn't meant to be. But if my gut instinct says, no, fight for it, I'll fight for it, because I think it's always a lesson. Everything that we do is a lesson from the universe. And it's like saying, you need to fight for something, or you just need to sit back and let something better come through. But you have to listen and go, is this something worth fighting for? Or is there another door that's meant to be opened? So I'm very, very connected. It's really weird because like if someone's close to me as well, I can feel certain things, from conversation. It's so weird. I feel like Rain Man sometimes. Like I get these feelings and I go, did you think about this? Maybe you shouldn't be friends with that person, or maybe get rid of that. So I'm very clear about unblocking. You have to always unblock to allow the universe actually to speak. I say this all the time, we've all got blockers, we just need to get rid of them.
Oh yeah. We could talk to you all day, but obviously you are a very busy woman, which is why you're doing so well. Our podcast is obviously called Going Commando, and what we've asked each of our guests is, if you were a pair of knickers, what pair of knickers would you be and why?
Oh goodness. So my pair of knickers would be a pair of thongs, stringy Brazilian thongs.
Okay.
And I always say, well, I not always say this, no one's ever asked me before. I am one of those people where if I could walk around naked all the time, like I literally would. I'm always bursting out, like wanting to just feel free and grounded with nature. Like if I go to the park, I love taking my shoes off and feeling the ground and feeling the earth. And I love the ocean. So that's why I always say Brazilian, because if I was in Brazil, literally, I would be on the beach, every day, just looking out into the ocean. I did my spirit animal and I'm a dolphin. And I was like, yeah, I can see it. The bare minimum is what I want, is what I need.
Brilliant.
Well, I'm aware we only have about 1 minute left, so you have to run away. So if you could give a quote or statement to your younger self, what would you say?
I would say, keep doing what you're doing. Just because people are adults doesn't mean that they know it all. And believe in yourself, because everything is going to be okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ngunan. And I encourage all of our listeners to follow Ngunan and to check out her I Woman business. And like us, I'm sure you'll be inspired. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've just had our second chat with Ngunan. What a treat.
I know. I mean, fortunate enough to have one, but to have two conversations is just brilliant. And what I love about the fact that we had to was that we got to hear even more about, I suppose, her way of looking at the world, and that isn't just about her work. It's about everything she does. And I think that for me is quite interesting, that sense of being part of the universe, and what you do in it is almost like your contribution to that. And that spiritual sense around everything she's doing is quite interesting, given the sector that we're in.
Yeah, that's very true. I thought it was interesting as well how she didn't view her personal life as opposed to her professional life. Like with how she mentioned her child kind of affecting the way that she worked, and how it doesn't have to be something that stands in the way of her career, but rather makes her look at it in a new way and try new things.
Yeah. And I think obviously that it's a risk, isn't it? It's a risk to be able to look at things that way, I suppose, and not to rely on other people to fix things for you or to enable you. The takeaway I got from it was that ultimately we have choices, don't we? So we can either look at something with a positive or negative perspective. So her sense of, okay, that door closed because there's going to be another one opening that's even better for me. To have that sense and self-belief, is just a gift, because that's what is such a challenge about this sector, are those doors that we think we can't open and those doors that are closed to us. And actually, if we could all as women see it as, oh no, that's just because that wasn't the right time or the right place for me, that would take away so much of our anxiety, I think. It's about feeling I'm a gift and in a sense you're lucky to work with me. So turning everything on its head, I suppose, is an interesting thing to do. And maybe that's what we need to encourage our listeners to do.
Yeah, very true. It reminds me of that idea of, rather than trying to get a seat at someone else's table, making your own table.
Exactly.
Maybe we don't want to sit at that table.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our challenge for you this week is for you to go about creating your own table. Think of someone or a company that you admire and take a risk. Reach out to them and see what happens. There is so much value in us taking the initiative to create our own creative networks. Forget everyone else. You might be surprised with your results.
Lastly, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. We're on all the socials at Going Commando with Wicked Women, and our Gmail is at goingcommando@gmail.com. Use the hashtag Going Commando so we can see how you get on with your challenges. And please share thoughts about the podcast and your experience of working in the arts too. See you soon.